Greetings and welcome to episode 16 of Spiritual Practices for Tough Times. How are you today? I hope wherever you are and whatever is happening, that as you join in here today or later on, that can be a time where we just sort of come into this moment where we talk about spiritual practices and how they can help us with tough times and even our normal times. And then we can go into our day and to see the world in a slightly different way. So thank you for joining and inviting us into your lives, and I look forward to this time with you as we gather today. I'd like to invite to light a candle to start our time, just as a reminder that there is sacred light within you, within me, within all of us and all of creation as we gather together today. And this sacred light is also with our frontline workers who are working with COVID-19, with those who have been infected, for those who have passed away and their families are grieving. And this sacred light is with all of us who might feel isolated, anxious, and afraid, that we are surrounded within and around by this light. I don't know if you have a cup of tea or coffee or something a little stronger for our time together. I always love having my cup of jasmine tea with you. It just reminds me that we are all in some sense of communion and union through the presence and flow of the sacred and life that's with us in every moment. As we begin our time, and over quite a few of our episodes, we've been following the development of the tulips in our backyard. It's hard to believe, but after almost 8 weeks, or actually 8 weeks, the tulips are finally blossoming in our backyard. And they're looking wonderful as we see them. It's hard to believe, but time does go by, and in time there is a evolution, and there's growth, and there's life, and there's death. And part of spiritual practices are allowing our hearts and our minds and our bodies to come out of our constant thinking and planning and looking for perfection or things to be a certain way, and instead to just allow ourselves to fall into the present moment. And when I see the tulips, they always remind me of that. So how about we begin a time where we have a moment of spiritual practice and we come into this presence together. So I might invite you in a second here, after I ring the meditation bell, to take a moment where we close our eyes. And we're going to follow the practice of breathing. One of the names for God is breathing life in our scriptures in the Christian lineage. And so partly by us coming into our breath is that we come into tune and synchronicity with the breathing life force that's within all of life in our cosmos. Just before we begin, just a reminder, you might remember in the really early episodes, if you watched any of them, is that if you want to change your perception and awareness and mind, if things are really tough for you or things aren't going well, which happens for us in various different ways, is just to focus consciously on your breath for 15 breaths. And by the time you come to the end of those 15 breaths, you can look out in the world in a different way. So let us begin this time of practice. I'm going to ring the meditation bell. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And just feel your body. Feel your feet. Then become aware of your breathing. And as you breathe in, you might bring your awareness or attention on the feel of the breath moving through your nostrils and throat and into your chest, into your abdomen. And as you breathe out, you might just want to let go of whatever's weighing upon you. You might let go of anxiety or tension or worry or angst or maybe judgment or anger that you're holding in your shoulders or your neck. Maybe you're clenching your fingers or your toes. Maybe it's the back of your calves. Maybe it's your lower back. As you breathe in, just be aware of your breath coming in. And as you breathe out, let go of the tension so you become more aware of your body and being here and now. Breathe in and breathe out. And as you're breathing and just being aware of being here and now, if you find yourself, your heart or your mind sort of clinging to different ideas or thoughts or emotions or sensations in your body or sounds around you, just gently let go of them. Not judging what's happening or trying to fix or have certain different thoughts or sensations. Just let go with your breath and come back to being in your body, with your breath, here and now. I'm just going to be quiet for a second or two and just let you be with your breath, gently and compassionately. Notice as you continue to be with your breath, and as your breath synchronizes with the breathing life within you and around you, maybe you begin to start to feel this spaciousness growing in your heart center, and a certain vibrancy and aliveness sort of spreading throughout your whole body. Maybe you feel this awakefulness, but you don't know how. You can't describe it, but it's this marvelous, generous feeling in your body as you breathe in and as you breathe out and as you let go. And this expanding spaciousness might feel warm in your body, or you feel this tenderness or sweetness within you. Just be with it. Breathe into it. Breathe out of it. Allow it to hold you. Allow this spaciousness to just be. Breathe in and breathe out. Be here now. And so as you slowly open your eyes and bring your awareness back to your surroundings, do you see a moment of beauty around you? Do you sense gratitude or joy? Being present is all about being with the flow of life, with no judgment, with no expectations, just the simple pleasure of being. So how do you feel in your body? Is your mind a bit calmer? Do you have a sense of that underlying calm that's flowing within us and around us, no matter what's happening in our lives? That's the gift that's waiting for you and me. And spiritual practices are all about allowing ourselves to come more into the presence. So today I want to talk to you about how we can part of what we can learn from spiritual practices and learn about ourselves and lives is that by making mistakes that we learn. I know that sounds maybe counterproductive or even paradoxical, but it's so true. By making mistakes we learn, and part of spiritual practices are about making mistakes so that we can trust that the path holds us. Also, about with spiritual practices is that part of making mistakes is so that we can learn that life makes all things work. And how do we let go of the obstructions that stop us from connecting to this nourishment that's always with us, this underlying calm, this peace that passes all understanding? And so part of the learning of spiritual practices is to learn ourselves to make mistakes. And making mistakes is learning how can we witness the obstructions within us that cause us not to be present. In spiritual practices, it's when we find ourselves clinging or becoming attached to a whole variety of things that stop us from being present to here and now. So the witnessing obstructions could be several things. It could be an idea, it could be an attitude, or lots of attitudes we have, beliefs, behavioral patterns, misunderstanding of cosmic wisdom, false ideas of the nature and identity of God, which is a real hooker for a lot of people who have grown up in institutional religion, or false ideas about ourselves and human nature. Also, some of the obstructions could be that how we always want to judge and compare and evaluate the thoughts and the emotions we have and the ideas and beliefs. We're always comparing and contrasting. Furthermore, we construct categories. And what are these categories? Well, we have good thoughts and we have bad thoughts. We have good actions and we have bad actions. We have good experiences and we have bad experiences. We have good emotions, we have bad emotions. And what do we do with all these categories that we construct and judge and evaluate? We measure them. Are we winning? Are we losing? Are we succeeding? Are we getting ahead? Are we failing? And so part of the spiritual practices is not to become attached or cling or be part of any of these categories of good and bad. So like we're sitting there and at the beginning, maybe when we're closed our eyes and we're breathing, and suddenly we have this thought come up. And suddenly behind the thought we're going to have, oh, is this a good thought or is that a bad thought? Oh, it's bad I'm thinking. I shouldn't be thinking. I shouldn't be attaching to this. This is bad. And what we do is become even more enmeshed, or it could be an emotion that comes up, and we judge them as good as bad. Sometimes in our lives we think shame or guilt or anger. We have all these categories. These are bad emotions. Well, giddiness and happiness and all these things are good emotions. And so we try to oppress one side and we try and elevate another side. But in the end, all that creates is more suffering for ourselves. And so spiritual practices teach us to treat all thoughts and all emotions with equal value or equanimity, or not to judge them or not to categorize them, but to let them be. And so that as we sit with our breath, or maybe it's in centering prayer or mindful walking or yoga or lots of different spiritual practices, it's not the practice to get rid of things or get things. It's the practice of simply letting things be and then letting them go without judgment, without evaluation, without contrasting and comparing, without labeling them good or bad. In the Headspace video we're going to see, they suggest is that all we do is we note them without any connotation of what they are. All we do is note them. So let's see what they have to say about that, and maybe that will help us.
The mind's wandered off. We might not know how to react. Noting gives us some very clear direction, perhaps a greater sense of clarity and confidence. In that moment, we pause and identify the nature of distraction. Oh yeah, thinking, or oh, feeling. Having noted, there's a sense of having dealt with it. This makes it easier to let go of the distraction and gently return to the object of focus. And when it happens again, which it will, we simply apply the same approach, gently noting the nature of the distraction. Now, when we begin noting, the temptation is to try and catch every single thought and feeling, but that quickly becomes tiring. We only need note the distraction when we realize that we've been lost in thought, and even then, it's a very gentle acknowledgement. Imagine it a little less like whack-a-mole and a little more like a feather, softly being placed on a fine crystal glass. So noting is when we recognize the mind has wandered. We acknowledge it, gently note the nature of distraction, let it go, and then effortlessly return to the object of focus.
So this is the wonderful thing about spiritual practices. They're not about perfection. They're about the simple practicing of allowing ourselves to learn from the mistakes of having our attention or awareness wander to wanting to worry about the thoughts we're having, or to cling to them, or to get caught in them. And then it's this simple practice of just letting go. And that's a wonderful way to look at spiritual practices, that it is through the mistakes that we actually grow and we learn. And what do we learn? We learn to let go. And when we learn to let go in the safe environment of just sitting in our chair at home and following our breath, and whatever happens, there's no danger, or we're not going to hurt ourselves or somebody else. We just have the gentleness of being nonviolent and non-judgmental, and just continue to let go as we continue. What that does, it eventually starts to rewire our brain. It starts to rewire our awareness and perceptions of reality, and it allows us to act in the normal world, or when we're not sitting following our breath. It allows us to become aware of life in a much gentler way around us, of each other and ourselves. That's what this next Headspace video tries to tell us. Let's listen to it now.
Think of the mind as a still pool of water. Each thought is like a raindrop. It creates a ripple on the surface. If it starts raining very hard, or it's perhaps a little windy, then the pool might become so cloudy that we can't see what's on the bottom. But the potential to return to our still pool of water is still there. In fact, by training the mind, the ripples naturally begin to slow. And as the surface of the pool becomes still, it gets easier to see what's beneath the surface. Sometimes we might like what we see, at other times, well, maybe not so much. Now, occasionally finding things we don't like may sound off-putting, but it's really important, because it's part of letting go of those things. Accepting what's in our mind also helps us to be less critical of ourselves. It can even help us to be less critical of others. So we start to feel more content in life, to experience more harmonious relationships, and to be more at ease with the world around us.
I don't know about you, but that's what I really need during these tough times. I need how do I find a gentleness in life with everything that's going around, when my buttons are being pushed more than ever because of the situations around COVID-19, around economic stress, around worrying about the future. You see, a spiritual practice is to help us begin to accept ourselves just as ourselves, and accept the world just as the world, and to trust that there is a flow, that in the chaos, that there is an underlying calmness. In the chaos, there is actually structure coming out. And our minds can be very chaotic sometimes. Mine can be very chaotic. I don't know about yours. Life can be very chaotic. But the simple act of letting go, allowing the mistake of becoming attached to things that aren't helpful, allows us to come back to that clear pool, that underlying sense of calm, and then where we can be a sense of ease with ourselves, and then with the people we live with and around us. And it creates a much more peaceful and creative life. That's what we hear in this Green Renaissance video, is that maybe what we attach to is not as important as what we think it is.
We really lost our relationship with unpredictability. We know what the weather's going to be like. We know what the traffic is going to be like. We always think everything should be uniform, should be perfect. But I think order is something entirely man-made to protect ourselves from what is unknown to us. The unknown, the unpredictable, the random, I would project my own fears onto it. I had OCD my whole life, and my OCD was sort of a type of order which is in my head. It feels like my mental disorder was order itself. Everyone's obsessions differ. What I thought is I had HIV or I had hepatitis C. Then I got it in my head that I've got this very special disease which can just contaminate anything and infect anyone. I had to flush the toilets about 8 times. When I ate food, I had to bury the plates and the cutlery in the garden. I couldn't really differentiate between reality and my delusions. My family became very worried about me, and my psychiatrist strongly recommended that I go to the psychiatric unit. It wasn't necessarily like Girl Interrupted or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's just normal people struggling with mental disorders. They're just victims of a chemical imbalance in their brains. I realized that I wasn't really alone in this. That there's a lot of normal people who are struggling with something, and some days it felt like all the sane people were inside the psychiatric unit, and all the other crazy people are actually running countries, or, you know. When I had OCD, I was really scared of chaos because I projected my worst fear onto the unknown. It feels that chaos has really saved me. It saved me from the order that existed in my head. When I'm surrounded by chaos, I feel alive and I feel totally out of my comfort zone. it allows more beautiful things to happen. This vibrant, benevolent force of opportunities. Reality isn't just an ordered state. It's a lot more magical than you would think. For me, reality is imbued with divinity. I don't have to make up fantasies about it. I don't have to make it more epic. It's a celebration of everything to its highest degree. The aim shouldn't be to be normal, rather just to be healthy and comfortable in ourselves and comfortable with where we are planted and bloom there. I'm not sure where life is heading to next, but I'm excited about it. I just want to be and I just want to feel and be present at whatever is happening right now. I would say I'm both feet in reality now.
Wow, we're having lots of interesting things today happen. I can relate to what Cozy was saying in that last video from Green Renaissance. He's had a life of struggle, but in it he's found this underlying divinity and calmness by letting go into the flow of life, which sometimes can feel like chaos. And so spiritual practices are all about us being able to let go, because in some ways we all have minds that have degrees of OCD to them. We all have parts of us where we can become possessed by our ideas, our beliefs, our thought patterns, and they can just take over. And when they do, we put these blinders on, and in some ways we can't even see reality because we're so trying to control everything. So spiritual practices are really this gift to make mistakes, to become aware, and to find an ease with who we are and with the reality around us. So maybe as we end this time, it would be a good moment just to practice again. So I invite you to put your feet on the ground, to close your eyes, and I'll ring the meditation bell. And I just invite you to imagine that you're sitting by a gentle brook or a stream. And as we're sitting there, you begin to imagine that you can feel the earth around you. You can smell the fecundity of nature. You know, that woody smell, that smell of earth and humus and leaves decaying, and the smell of the trees and the resins, and that you can feel the warm, gentle sunlight coming through the leaves and dappling upon your face. You feel the gentle breeze. It's not windy, but just this lovely breeze that flickers past you. And then you hear the running stream. I want to imagine that in the stream is actually your and my stream of consciousness. All the thoughts, sensations, all the things we judge and connect to. And just let them be boats that float past. And as we sit in the stream and as we breathe, if you find yourself wanting to jump on a boat and go down the stream with it and see where it takes you, or if it leads to a party or a tragedy or whatever, just if you jump onto that boat, just note it very gently, like a feather, and then come back to your breath and just be present is sitting on the earth, the smells of nature around you, the wind upon your cheeks and the sunlight gently warming you, and be present. Be present to your breath. Be present to your body. Be present to just life, just as it is, here and now. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with those around you. Be gentle with the stuff in your house that works sometimes and doesn't work. Allow yourself to become aware of a divine presence that flows in and through all of our moments and invites us to live life, to live your life at its fullest. Just breathe. Just be. And as you slowly open your eyes, you have a sense of life around you, and life in you, and life with you, and a sense of beauty and joy. Thank you for your patience with our streaming technology today. It was really a live example of how to be at ease with whatever's happening and just to continue on with life, because that's the way it sometimes is. Shit happens. Stuff doesn't work. And we just keep going. We keep working with it. We keep coming back gently to the heart of life and the heart of the flow, and everything will work out. A spiritual practice is here to help us develop the awareness to do one thing, one thought, one action, one being at a time with attention and presence. Because we really have enough now to work with in this moment. And so as we go from here, I hope in your days ahead that you can just focus on the one thing within you and around you and with you each moment, whether that be pouring a cup of tea, preparing food, eating, going for a walk, reading, having a conversation with somebody. The gift of spiritual practice is how we can let go and just come into the here and now, and to know essentially everything is going to be okay. So take care. If you want to come back, we're going to re-edit this session and have the full thing on YouTube in a couple hours, or Facebook. And may you be blessed, and thank you for who you are and for being with us on this journey. Take care until we see you again. Blessings.